We are under a bit of time pressure today, so mine's on the job. Welcome everyone to the Infrastructure and Projects Committee meeting for the 4th of March. Welcome to those on live stream who have joined us. So we don't have anyone on Zoom. We do have apologies from Councillor Kett and Reverend Cook. Thanks, Darren. Seconded. Leslie, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Any declarations of interest for anything on the agenda today from anyone? No? Thank you. Okay, so we do have two public forums. One on a petition that's been presented to Council around Stanton Road, which is out at in the West Plains sort of area. And Nick's going to come up and talk to us. Do you want to come up now, Nick, please? Just grab a seat and just, if you could keep the microphone up close, because so we can. Okay.
Everyone hear me there?
Yes. So floor is yours.
Hello everyone, how are you? I've come as a representative of Staunton and Fowler Road, which is out West Plains. This isn't the first time I've been here in this forum, albeit a bit different. About 8 years ago, we came with a kind of similar issue we have with the gravel roads out at Staunton and Fowler Road. About 8 years ago, we, done a bit of a rates tally of what we pay in those areas and what we actually got for that. No water, no bin collection, etc. And gravel roads that get graded probably about 4 times a year, I think it was the last 8 years ago. We got together and it was decided that a working party would be created to talk about Staunton and Fowler Road and other roads around the Southern District, I guess under the Invercargill City Council's banner, how we'd go about asphalting going forward. We raised the points that, areas were still getting subdivided in those streets, in those roads I should say, 5 acre blocks, consent's still getting issued, houses are being built, but nothing's really getting put into the roading infrastructure. From there, look, it probably did die a natural death, to be honest. Life goes on, everyone gets busy, but as a lot of us have lived there for 10 years plus, our children are starting to grow now, they're driving vehicles, there's a lot more traffic on the roads, there is a lot of dust too. The council has moved to I would say when I shifted in there it was kind of like a white crusher dust type arrangement aggregate on the ground. Now it's more, I don't know, it's a brown kind of aggregate, which gives a lot of dust in the summer months. Our houses are covered in dust, our kids can't walk down the street without a car going past, even at 60 k's, being covered in dust. And I guess people have stopped even coming to visit our areas because their cars get filthy. Elderly parents, they just don't want to wash their cars, which I can understand. All our vehicles are pretty dirty all the time, which look, we live in a gravel road, I get it, we're just out of town. But there's definitely been a change in the dust content, and this brings us to our next point. We actually don't know what's in this dust. This dust is landing in our roofs. We're tank fed all the houses on water out there. We're not actually sure what we're breathing, if there is a high toxic level in there of anything, silica or anything. And then just going forward, there's been no action obviously with the 8 years ago where we agreed that something would be looked at and we'd get some information passed through, which we haven't. And then building's still going ahead, probably not at a great rate of knots. We're in a recession at the moment, but there was a house transported there probably 6 months ago on Staunton Road, so there are still areas that will be subdivided and sold. There's a couple of big parcels there, and I guess, look, we just want to understand, if I think there's about 3.6 k's of road on Staunton and Fowler Road, and look, I'm probably guessing there's 50 houses, 50 residents. It's quite an enclosed area where it's not just 1 or 2 houses on a road, and everyone's got families. So that's probably what I've brought, a petition from some of the residents in Staunton and Fowler Road, filed a couple of months ago. And yeah, just that's what I'm here for, team. So any questions, please fire away.
Yeah, thanks very much, Nick. So the petition that Nick's talking about is on tab 14, a board box. Aaron, I'll just ask you as GM of Infrastructure for any background you have around this issue.
Thank you, Chair. absolutely aware of the fact that this is one that's been discussed for some time, including with a number of other roads around the city and Bluff. Some councillors may recall that in the lead up to the long-term plan, when we were doing long-term plan workshops, a list was compiled of approximately 20 roads that staff went away and scored against a priority index for Invercargill City Council that looks at things like vehicle movements along roads, number of residents, heavy vehicles versus passenger cars, etc. And those 20 roads were put into a priority list. Also given an indexation against Wakakatahi's indexation for seal extension, and also a cost for both the sealing of those roads and ongoing maintenance of those roads to be put up. Staunton and Fowler roads did both come into the high category when they were scored against ICC's criteria, but given the unlikelihood of getting NZTA co-funding for any seal extensions at the moment, at the time it was decided by council that we wouldn't be progressing with seal extensions as part of the long-term plan at that time. So that's just the background to those ones.
Thanks, Erin. Okay, questions from councillors? Councillor Pottinger and then Councillor Ludlow.
Thank you. Couple of questions. First one is, I'm looking at the map now. You don't have any milk tankers using the road?
No, there's no farms there, but on the odd occasion milk tankers have come through.
They've snuck through.
Yep, a lot of people do use it. Contractors use it for probably a thoroughfare.
As a thoroughfare.
Yep.
Right. And the other question is not for you, but to council. Once we receive this petition, what is council bound to what do we do with it? Do we don't just file it away? Do we consider it? Do we bring it?
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Once council receives the petition, it then goes to staff to prepare an answer to come back to council for, in accordance with standing orders.
Right. So it will arrive as a discussion topic.
Or a paper.
Yeah. So it will come to us. So thanks for putting in the petition.
Yep, okay. Darren?
Question of that process, will that paper include the cost, estimated cost of unsubsidised sealing?
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that.
Alex?
Thank you.
I think I was trying to work out whether it's in two hands or one hand.
Hey, thank you, Nick. Just a question around, like you mentioned you've been there for about 10 years, is that right? Yeah. Have you experienced quite a lot of development on either road?
Yep, definitely. Probably in the last 10 years, I would say 10 new builds, a couple that have been transportable homes in there. But yeah, definitely. Look, if you look at the map, there's I can't quite remember the number, but I'm at 183. So just to my left, there's a parcel of I think 80 acres that's sitting untouched on the road, and then there's a section at the back that is, I think, 150 acres. So, I think in time, people are just sitting on them. There's nothing on them. They're just grazing a bit of land, bit of animals on it. And look, we're realists, right? I know it's in a flood zone. Like we're up on the plain, but where it drops down into the flood zone, where it floods, I can't remember. There's a last house. I can't remember the number on it. Sorry, but the expectation wouldn't be full seal all the way down there. Like if we come to some agreement, the expectation would that we would take the longer way into town rather than council paying for a bit of area that may go underwater, may not, or actually is underutilised. So, we've also talked in the past, I think 8 years ago, about owner-occupied subsidy. There's some of us that are keen on that, but there's some that aren't, right? Like you've got different demographics of age, profile, people that can afford it, that can't afford it. So, that's, to go back, I think 8 years ago, I was told, well, we'd need to go back and get an unanimous decision on everyone to take a rates-loaded loan, interest-free. We just couldn't guarantee that, right?
Yeah.
So, like we have had those conversations, we're not expecting just to be given everything on a platter, but it is not the same shoe fits all in Staunton and Fowler Road.
Yeah, okay. Just on that point, Nick, one of the ways forward, would your group be prepared to form a sort of a working party to work alongside council to look at sort of different options that might be considered, or just to keep the communication up between your group and council?
Yep, definitely, 100%. I mean, you know, look, I've thought about this many times. It could be a one-way system, so it doesn't have to be as wide to lower the cost. I think the problem we'd always find is, because there is some grazing blocks in that area, you can always have contractors going through, bailage, tractors, trucks, etc. You know, how do we get around that? But I just don't expect, you know, what we've turned up here, even though it's been a long conversation we've had over the last 8 years, that, you know, we're going to be at the top of the pile. But, you know, there is opportunities there to do something.
Okay, thank you. So I've got Nobby and Leslie, and that'll be it.
Sure. So I used to be the rural delivery operator out there, and so I've probably run over that road about 1,500 times. And just some observations for me. I went out and had a look a few days ago. I only see one house there in the last, one new house in the last 5 years, and that's at 237. I think the other ones all predate that. My experience, I guess, is that Ackers and Ferry roads, which are adjoining, do get potholed and they do get very dusty because they've got trucks over them. The trucks do a whole lot of damage, which I never had problems of driving through Staunton. I can't talk for the other one, I don't know. But I guess if you think about the potential cost of sealing, and it's not just sealing, it's preparing the road and sealing, for that 3.6 kilometres, you're probably looking not a lot of change out of $2 million. So I'll just signal that if you're looking to get ratepayer subsidies, that would be a pretty steep bill if you didn't have everybody buying into it, I guess. I just want to reflect on it. But what I did notice when I was going across is the small bridge before you get out of Staunton Road, the small one you go over, where the white baiters are, is badly damaged.
Yep.
So I just wanted to signal that for council that there's some repair work that needs to be done on that bridge.
Yep. Which, you know, in the sense of that, you know, that bridge could probably possibly disappear if we had a decent one way in, one way out type thing, you know, it doesn't, you know, so how do we offset the cost of the bridge, which, you know, could be, you know, I'm just guessing, I'm chucking a number.
No, I don't think the bridge is the problem, it's just the seal that goes
Right.
over it. It's really badly pitted.
But anyway, you know, like,
Yep.
granted, it's quite funny you said you're out there a couple of days, because on Fowler Road, yesterday it must have been graded. I was in Dunedin on Sunday night and I came back Monday night. It must have been graded on yesterday, Monday. As last week, as I was going down Fowler Road, the corrugations just pretty much from start to finish, Staunton Road to Fowler Road, were just constantly down there, probably 1 k stretch of track. And you know, like I think if I look back, it was probably only graded, if you look at your records, probably 4 or 5 weeks prior to that. So that's how much traffic has gone over that Fowler Road to corrugate, not just in stopping, across the whole road.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
But taking your valid point,
Yep.
yeah, there would have been one new house built probably in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
And that's Mr Gooding, and then there's the transport ordinance spot there.
Yeah, further down.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
guess, and this is not me a cheap shot at you guys, but I mean, I live in a rural area as well, so you get this debate in Otara about what do we get for our rates. I understand that. But you mentioned you're not on water or sewerage.
Nobby, can you talk into your mic?
Oh, sorry, you mentioned you were not on water or sewerage. There was something else you mentioned?
Bins. Bins.
Oh, bins.
Yeah, refuge.
But you shouldn't be paying for any of those things.
Say that again?
You shouldn't be paying for those things. So like, I don't pay for water rates, I don't pay for sewerage in Otara, and I don't pay for bins.
Yeah, I pay for bins. I don't know how you think I shouldn't be paying for bins. There's no provider out there. It's private.
No,
No.
I think what the mayor means is that your bin, waste collection and water are a targeted rate. So if you're not receiving them, you're not paying for them in your general rate.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree, but, you know, what I'm trying to say here is in the general rates that I pay, which are quite substantial because of the price of my house, you know, on the valuation, you know, my kids can't ride their bike down that road.
Yeah.
My kids can't have a footpath or a safe place to run the dog.
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to, you know, get at here. Like, valid point, 100%. But, you know, because of the value of my property, which, you know, I've bettered myself and so have everyone else in the area, we're paying more for less to a degree, and I'm just trying to get that point across. So,
Yeah, no, fair enough.
you know, but definitely look, just if I look back, I think the costings in 10 years ago, because we actually came with the paper and it'll be filed somewhere in council for otter seal for that road. I think it came at a cost of, I'm going to say $150,000, right? And I think the seal extensions then was costed, and if you look back in the notes, I'm pretty sure it was between 500 and 700,000. So granted, yep, it might be 2 point something now, naughty, but you know, if we'd done something back then, it might not have been so expensive.
Yeah,
So,
fair.
you know, I think it's horses for courses. We've moved in a world where, you know, the construction, building, everything's gone up 30, 40%. So we're just living in that world now, and we can't get away from that.
Okay, we're just about out of time, so last question, Liz.
Thanks, Mr McCleary. Just a quick question. You said there were about 50 residents.
Yep.
But I noticed there's only 32 signatures on the petition, so is that just a point in time thing, or
Yeah,
does that mean
that's-
some people actively didn't want to sign?
No, that's point in time. We had one day, I gave it to Jonathan Duffy, the co-operator with me, putting this together. He went one way, gave it back to me. I went the other way in the afternoon, and we just caught people as they were home. So we haven't called a general meeting. I mean, look, I work full time, so does he. To get around everyone in every house and spend 5, 10, 15 minutes telling them about what we want to do is quite time consuming. So Leslie, it wouldn't not be a point in time where people aren't interested. It's just, actually, this is where we went, this is how we got it.
So no one who actively said they weren't interested?
No,
didn't want-
definitely not,
Yeah,
no.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Look, thanks, Nick. You put your case forward well.
Excellent.
So the next steps will be a paper will come back to Infrastructure Committee. Certainly from my perspective, I'd like to see some community sort of engagement around that with your group.
Yep.
And then we'll see where we get to. So
Excellent. Hey,
Thank
thank
you
you
for
very much,
coming
Tom.
along.
Thanks for your
Cheers.
time. Thank you.
Okay, the next public forum piece is the proposed road names for Bainfield Road. So Carl and Shane. So this is tab 8 on your iPad. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Grant. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for allowing us to speak today on naming of our road at the subdivision we're doing at the moment on Bainfield Road. I'm Carl Hamilton, this is my business partner and brother Shane. We are in the process of subdividing the property at the old 7-day Adventist school at 28 Bainfield Road. The subdivision will consist of 20 sections, ranging from 450 square metres to 810 square metres. The main access will be off Bainfield Road, with a pedestrian walkway from the development through to North Road, directly opposite the Woolworths supermarket. Part of the subdivision process is to finalise the new street name of the subdivision. As requested by council, we put forward 3 names that narrowed it down to. The 3 names that we put forward in order of preference were Perry Lane, McNeese Way and Blake Place. The City Council put forward to us some suggested names of World War I soldiers to consider, and we would be included in the Poppy Places initiative, which has identified and recorded many of the street names and places in New Zealand that are directly related to the people and events from overseas military history. 2 of our street names I've just mentioned from the council's suggestions, with our preference name Perry Lane being named after Lieutenant Edgar Seymour Perry. The significance of Lieutenant Perry, who served in Gallipoli and was killed in action on the 22nd of August 1915. His wife and 2 daughters lived in the Waikiri area, and he was named, and his name is in the Waikiwi School, Waikiwi Presbyterian Church memorials, amongst others around Invercargill. Lieutenant Perry was well known in Southland, both as known sportsman in football, athletics and rowing, and also a businessman. He has no known grave, so a street name after him would be lasting memories of his family and the community. Our second option was McNeese Way, was also chosen as he was also a local World War I soldier who died in action. He was also a keen sportsman, but didn't live in the Waikiwi area. And the last name that we threw in the mix due to other suggestions name was not being suitable was Blake Way, which is named after Blake Nursery, which subsided there for a number of years before the 7-day Adventist school took over the entire property in 1995. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and yeah, we'd just like to sort of put forward that our number one preference for the new street name would be Perry Lane.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take some questions before we take the paper. So any questions or any comments re this? No. Yep, Tom?
Thank you, and we are going to consider this paper later. You'll have seen we have it in here. And I must admit that when I read the paper, I had assumed that the choice would be Perry Lane, and I was a little bit surprised to find it wasn't. But so, I mean, that's something that we'll discuss later. But could I just ask you, are we, is there any known link between Mr. Perry, or Lieutenant Perry, was it, and that particular area? I mean, I know you said Waikiwi, but there's a fair distance between Waikiwi and where we're talking about.
Not the property itself.
Across the road.
Oh, okay, so it's close, but it's, yeah, okay.
Cool. Pani?
My question is, was there any consideration to actually consider what the land was used for, the whakapapa of that area, rather than naming it after people?
No, there wasn't at the time, to be honest. We based it on some suggestions from the council, which, as Carl mentioned, after war veterans, that was sort of starting point.
So just to be clear, so you've come to council and said, look, there's a naming opportunity up here. They've come back to you with sort of some recommendations. You've taken it away and come back with your recommendation, or your preferred option, which is the Perry Lane. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Righto, well, look, thank you for coming along. And look, also thank you for, doing the development. We need more ratepayers in this town, so it's good that you're providing the opportunity for them. So keep it up.
Cheers.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm not sure whether I should have done this earlier, but we have one late item on this, which is the draft regional transport plan. So do I need to move for acceptance of that? Yeah, thanks Leslie. Seconded Darren. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. So tab 4, the minutes of the Waste Advisory Group WasteNet meeting held the 18th of November 24, that should be. We haven't been at 25 yet, I don't, unless the year's gone quick. Congratulations, you've all been re-elected. Barry's moved. Second, thanks, Ringy. I'd just ask either Barry or Ringy, have you got any sort of comment to make around the items that were discussed in that meeting?
Well, I guess the major presentation was regarding green bin, a separate green bin and a separate green waste collection, and when you read it, you can see it's put forward quite theoretical and from a utopian viewpoint. But in real life, green waste is far from that. And there's quite a few compelling reasons. One of them is especially with food waste. Now, out at our landfill, out at AB Lime, the food waste that's included in the red bin goes into the landfill. It goes into various cells. Cells are created. They're all piped. The gas is collected. The gas currently is burnt off to dry the lime in the kilns. So it's used, the gas. There is no escaping gas. So none goes into the environment. And what is in plan, I understand, is electricity generation. Now, they'll be able to put power back into the grid. Now, so if you're looking at the greenest option, what's greener? Sending stuff, the food waste in an existing collection that's already happening, turning it into electricity, or create a new collection system with new trucks, picking up green waste, turning it into compost. Now, I think it's quite obvious which is the better environmental effect. So, and we talked about that in the meeting, and basically the green bin is parked.
Yeah.
not on the street, it's parked somewhere else. But you could go to Dunedin, which is a utopian society, and they have 4 bins. They have a separate one for glass, separate one for green waste, separate one for recycling, and a separate one for waste. I don't think they have enough street room, but they
Got
have
plenty
4
of bins.
Yeah, they got lots of bins.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Rangi. So just trying to capture that, so if we leave it as it is, we still capture the sort of energy, for want of a better term, off that through the way we're doing it out.
Far more efficiently.
Yeah.
Far more efficiently, we are doing the world a favour.
Yeah.
And there are future things to talk about with with AB Lime. They have carbon credits and various stuff. Erin, is it true council does pay carbon? Will we do taxed carbons? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the emissions trading scheme,
Yeah.
we pay a rate per tonne of waste.
Yeah. So if there are future opportunities, if council wants to come on board with AB Lime and look at carbon futures, but that's a separate issue altogether.
Yeah.
But
No.
the status quo, in my view, is very, very good.
Yeah, well done. No, thank you for summarising that. Appreciate that. Barry, have you got any other thoughts?
Yeah, I flew back from Mariwa in Auckland this morning, and they had a small green bin, about yay by yay, and just about every house had one out for collection, which really amazed me. I didn't think it'd be a goer, but
Yeah.
I was very amazed at how many actual houses had these wee bins out.
Okay, thank you. Look, we've got a mover and seconder, so yeah, no final comment. All those in favour of receiving that paper?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Sorry, Mayor Clark, did you have your hand up on that one?
Just going to reinforce what Rangi said, I guess, because the more pickups you do with different bins, the more your carbon footprint as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Just picking it up out of the one bin is obviously the way forward, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I missed your hand.
That's all right.
Tab 5, minutes of the Infrastructure and Projects Committee meeting. I think there's a couple of recommendations there, isn't there? We're just confirming them? Yeah, okay, can I, thank you.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. You were going to have a word?
I was just going to ask a question. For item number 13, had there been any update?
The disposal of land.
Yep.
I suspect we haven't had any.
I would need to go and just find out where that one's at.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
If you want to ask a question, you put your hand right up so I can catch it. Not just for you, but for others. Okay, tab 6, the road closures for Anzac Day. Doug.
Kia ora, Mr. Chairman. This is an annual event, the Anzac Day closures. What's missing off here is actually, I'm going to discover just before, it's 5 a.m. till 10 a.m., which again is the usual time span that they use to get set up and then clean up afterwards.
Cool. Okay, so
Move the 3 recommendations.
Second.
any answers or points? No. Good. Okay, seconded. So moved. Darren and seconded Priya. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
His finger up.
Oh yeah.
Getting a
Do
personal-
this 3 times.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the Anzac Parade we have at Bluff. They also use an arterial road, state highway, but it just seems as though they don't do it formally, they just do it. And I guess there's no cost to us for that or any implications for us to do that.
I don't think they close off the entire area. They don't block the road completely.
No, it's a bit set back there, but do you just want to touch base with perhaps Ray to just check that there's nothing we need to do there?
Through you, Chair, yes, absolutely. If it's a state highway closure, obviously it'll be NZTA.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
they generally give us the courtesy of letting us know in case there's adjacent streets, so
Yeah.
I will follow that up.
Thank you, just to make sure. Thanks, Meg. Okay, tab 7, the proposed right-of-way name for Ototara Road, 60 Ototara Road. So this is separate from the one we got presented to in public. Patricia.
Good afternoon, councillors. So this is a paper for an application for 2 right-of-ways, one off 60 Otatara Road and the other to the subdivision requires 2 entrances. So a number were proposed by the developer and their preference ones were provided, which is Halligan Way and Bushhaven Way.
And the recommendation is to go with those preferences?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay, John? Thanks.
Am I right in thinking that we still have a policy that a te reo alternative will be, or a Maori at least alternative will be offered developers? In both the papers that we have, all 3 alternatives are not.
We are working with the developers. There is no approved list of te reo names, so they're having to come with them. The policy is up for review shortly, which will look at it. The policy that we have got at the moment highly recommends them, but if a developer doesn't give us that offer, it is a lot of staff time to try and suggest other options.
My question through you, Chair, was not so much about whether a particular Maori option should be, pushed. Rather, I thought that an alternative was supposed to be proposed so that one of the 3 would be that way, and these aren't.
It was intended that the next update would require that. When we went back and had a look at the policy, it's highly encouraged, but there's no requirement.
Okay, I don't understand.
Yeah, with that, Tom? So I've got Ria, then Trish, then Pani, and then Alan.
Thank you. I just wanted, similar to what Councillor Campbell's brought up, this issue, problem, or if you don't want to call it that, call it something else, it has come up before when we are looking at these types of proposals, and I thought that there was a general consensus that if te reo names weren't provided, because there wasn't a list of approved names from mana whenua yet, that any proposed name would go past mana whenua to have a glance over before it came to council.
I think that in practice that was taken if there was a te reo name provided, not the fact that all road names would go past mana whenua first.
Okay, Trish?
I have some concerns about the name Bushhaven Way.
Bushhaven.
No, it's not actually, because if you read it, it's only got 1 H. And so it would be Bushhaven.
No.
And so for
Yeah,
me,
that's true.
living
Yeah.
there, I wouldn't be happy with that. I wonder whether it should have 2 H's. I don't know what other people think.
It's a good point, well picked up. Have you got it? Is that a typo, or is that?
That was how, I understand that was how it was provided from the developer.
Bushhaven was the name of the
Yes.
bird rescue nursery, and it was always spelt that way, and no one called it Bushhaven.
Well,
I take your point,
yeah,
but it's 1 word, not 2.
I know, but so is, well, whatever. I'm just,
If it was 2, it would need...
Right,
I've
we're not
made
going
it-
to be linguistic specialists, so we'll just note that. Thank you, Trish.
Bushhaven.
Pani, then Alan, then Ringy.
Just in regards to the policy and agreement around having a te reo Māori name within that, it was agreed that we would provide te reo names based on the area provided. So literally, instead of doing a scattergun list, we were more focused on the whakapapa of the areas requiring a name. But this did not come to us in any way or form to provide input.
Yeah, so I think where we are at, but correct me if I'm wrong, Patricia, is that that was discussed, but it hasn't been enacted in any policy.
No. So the policy states, I've got the policy in front of me, that names for roads created by private subdivision. It notes that it's intended that at the next revision of this policy, one of the 3 proposed names be in te reo, and a list of appropriate names will be provided for this purpose. So the development of the policy hasn't got to the point, and it is, I'm pretty sure this one is due for revision very shortly. That we've got that. We have highly where developers have come to us the team have suggested that they include a Te Reo name, and we've had a lot of uptake on that. But in this case, in these cases, that I'm not sure whether that suggestion wasn't provided or not. I haven't been able to talk to staff around that.
Okay, thank you. Alan, then Rangi, then Darren.
I was just going to say, I'm quite happy to move these as they are written here, because I still firmly believe the developer should name the road as they see fit, as long as it's not, as long as it complies with good English or good Maori for Te Reo. And this does, my word. But Bus Haven's fine, I think so, because I'm sure they're probably named after the reason that Darren's suggesting. So I'm happy to move these as they are.
Okay, we'll hold that and we'll go to Rangi and Darren.
Look, I like just being a member of the golf club. Graham Halligan was a legend at the golf club, and his name, they put that forward as the first choice for that right away off Otatara Road. And I've just Googled Bushhaven, and if you use it as one word, all over New Zealand, it is as it's spelt there.
Okay, thanks.
It is. There's bushhavens everywhere around New Zealand, and they're all spelt that way.
So it's common.
So it is. That's the way it is. If you want to separate it, but there's enough there to say it's spelt correctly. So if it needs seconding, I'm along with Alan.
Okay, we'll come back to that, Darren.
My understanding was the view expressed by Pānia, but if that was never actually incorporated into the policy, and it's due for review about now, then we need to tidy that up and make sure that we do go to mana whenua for location appropriate Te Reo names.
Yep. Yeah, so look, we've got a mover in a second now, and Rangi, if you could just note that, Patricia, that the Mayor has his hand up. Did he have it right up or just half up? Right. Mayor Clark.
Just in relation to what Pānia and Darren both said, I think they said separate things. I think Pānia's perspective was that iwi would provide a general location suite of names that a developer could then choose from, so that they have a Te Reo name and as one of the three options. Where Darren was sort of saying that as you do a subdivision, you then have to approach iwi to get a specific name for that subdivision. So helpful to know your perspective on that, Pānia.
Yeah, so I think what will happen is when you bring the updated policy back, we'll have a discussion around it, around the process, and make sure it's right to reflect the thoughts that have been mentioned in the committee. So do we need to do any formal action, Patricia, to get that policy brought forward?
I believe it's probably already sitting on the review list, but I will double check that.
Yeah, can you
Because
bring it
I
forward?
know that's coming to finance and I know that is coming onto the finance and policy agenda for the next meeting.
It is. Right, great, thank you. So it'll be resolved. Excellent, thank you. So I've got a mover and a seconder. No more questions. So all those in favour of the two recommendations?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Good discussion. So we come to the name for Bainfield Road, which was the public forum discussion. So noting that the developer's recommendation is Perry Lane, and the council have gone back, or the paper recommends, what does it recommend? Blake Place. So we'll have to amend the recommendation if we go that way. So, Tom?
Sorry, you're going to...
yeah, I'll just take discussion because we've heard the thing. There's nothing further to add with it, Patricia, you want?
If you want the understanding of the staff reasoning for why Blake was preferred, Blake's Nursery was an institution on that corner for many years, and it has direct ties to that particular piece of land. Admittedly, it is not back to mana whenua, but to those times, but it had that thing of those three options, it was the closest related to that. We recognise that the other two options before that are ones that could be used anywhere in the city and would be suitable elsewhere.
Righto, so we've got Tom, Darren and then Trish.
I mean, it is, I don't know if these are meant to be questions, but I mean, it does seem to me that we should be encouraging the Poppy Places initiative. We have the recommendation of the developer being that, the fact that he lived close enough by for it to be considered a link. My own view, Chair, and where I would move when you get to that point is that we adopt Perry Lane rather than the recommended name.
Yeah, thank you. Aaron, then Trish, then Ria.
I support Tom's position in this instance. The Blake's nursery that was next door didn't cover the plot of land that this is on. It was next door to it, where there's already a lot of infill town housing. And I think the recognition of the Poppy name is probably, in the absence of a te reo alternative, is probably the next most desirable recognition, recognising a significant sacrifice.
So we've got Trish and then Alex.
I would have problems with Place because
You wouldn't, or you would?
I would. I like it. I like the idea of it being Blake, but I don't think Place is the right name for a street. I mean, we talked about lane and stuff. To me, when I was reading this, it doesn't resonate well with me. So I would support Perry, Perry Lane.
Thank you. Alex, last one.
Thank you, Chair. I am happy to second the Deputy Mayor's motion if he's willing to put it forward. I think that the developer put forward a really strong case, and like to Councillor Ludlow's point, it's also a Poppy Places name, and it's you know, their prerogative as well to a certain degree. Like they are putting a lot of skin in the game to get this off the ground.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they've done a bit of research around it and they put a bit of thought into it, which is really good. Sets a good precedent. So, Tom, we will take you as the mover and Alex is seconder on the basis that it's amended to Perry Lane. We've got the Perry right, it's not IE.
P-E-R-R-Y.
It's not P-E-R-R.
Make a great song.
Checking our words.
Make a great song
Trish.
title.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone's happy with that, so we're going to move and second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, tab 9, the Waste Net Recycle Bin Inspection Enforcement Program Reintroduction Update. You want to do it from here?
And we've also got Fiona Walker online on Teams, and she is the WasteNet Director, and she heads up WasteNet on behalf of the 3 Southland councils. So this is a paper that is attached that was sent to the Waste Advisory Group, made up of representatives of the 3 councils, but I was also keen, given the impact that this has on the community, for all Invercargill City Council elected members to also be aware of the bin inspection program that is being rolled out currently across the city and Bluff. Mark, was Fiona going to start, or were you going to?
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Yeah, I can start and just give a brief overview. So, so the inspections begun 10th of February, and as the report says, about over 2,900, well, actually almost at 4,000 bins inspected, and that's over the Southern District and Invercargill City Council areas. And so far it seems to be positive. There's most people we've engaged with knew the bin inspections were taking place through the media. So it's going well, and hopefully we'll see some good improvements with the contamination.
Okay, so you happy to take some questions? So we've got any.
I just might ask if Fiona, did you have anything just to add to that one from online?
Yeah, so the paper Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. The paper does walk through the approach that we've taken to reintroducing bin inspections. So recognising that bin inspections haven't been something that's occurred throughout the Southern area for quite some time, we did put a lot of thought into how we advertised and communicated that this program was going to resume. So there has been considerable work done, as Mark mentioned, to make sure that the community is aware. And we've also opted to take a staged approach in terms of reintroducing them. So the paper explains the 3 phases that we've taken, the first being the communication and education, the second being essentially a pilot period, and that was from when we commenced on the 10th of February through to the 31st of March. And what we have proposed to the Waste Advisory Group is that from the 31st of March, a 3-strike system would be implemented. So essentially what that means for the community is that if they receive 3 red tags, and a red tag is given to a property where there is significant contamination, not just a couple of things that are put in error, if they receive 3 red tags in a calendar year, then their recycling bin service would be suspended and the bin removed from that property until they sign and return a service agreement with the council, and then at which point they would get their bin back. So we've taken learnings and we've considered the approach taken by other councils, because this is a system that several councils for various reasons have implemented. We've chosen at this stage not to have a monetary penalty associated with a bin being removed, nor have we chosen to apply costs with the recovery and return of bins. So from that perspective, there's no monetary implications. It's more just around ensuring that the recycling bins are being used appropriately for the purpose of trying to reduce contamination.
Okay, thanks Fiona. So we do have Darren and then Mayor Clark.
I commend the staged approach and the communications that went out this time, because the last time we were doing bin inspections there were some very hostile responses that came from some characters. Have the inspections crews received any such responses so far this time?
There has been a couple of incidents of verbal abuse which have been recorded. The inspectors are getting set up with body cameras so that we can obviously record these, and we do find a lot of times the body cameras do stop it before it happens, but yeah, overall it's been positive.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Clark.
Yeah, my question's really just for Rangi, which is on page 34 of board books, and under general, coming down to the 3rd paragraph, there's some mention there about contamination rates, and I just wanted his view, because I know he's expressed this before and been in this game for a long time, that a lot of that contamination rate is actually glass being in the recycling, not other contaminants. That we often lose quite a bit of recyclable product because of the glass contamination is too high.
Look, I don't think, Fiona, if you're listening, you might correct me, but I don't think glass, putting in a glass bottle will get a red tag. I don't think so. I know what you mean. It does contaminate, it gets broken and affects the recycling system. But Fiona, does that create a red tag?
No, that's correct. You wouldn't get a red tag. There are some instances in terms of the volume that we measure where glass shards mean that the material is contaminated and isn't able to be processed, but by and large this program is targeted at the gross contamination, so things like nappies and all that sort of terrible things that do come through, unfortunately, the recycling system. But yeah, that's the focus of this program.
Okay, so I think it is a good point raised, and I think it would be simple if WasteNet would agree on it, just put a sticker on top of the yellow bin, no glass, and then people aren't confused, because it doesn't matter what you can try with education. If it's something there that says no glass, then you've only got one other option, or throw it over the neighbours.
That's not a suggestion.
No.
Erin, do you want to talk to that point?
Yes, thank you, Chair. In terms of the glass, absolutely at the moment our process is to have mixed recycling, so that is to have glass in with the rest of our recycling. So we definitely don't consider that to be contamination from the perspective of bin inspections. When the glass in the mixed recycle stream becomes an impact is in terms of when we look to on-sell that product. So as you can imagine, glass becomes broken within the bins, it goes through the MRF process, it breaks up, and it particularly affects those streams like paper and cardboard, which you can obviously get a much higher return for and can be used in a higher quality of recyclable product than if you get, if you're trying to recycle paper products, etc., that have got high amounts of glass contamination, shards of glass in them. So it really comes into that quality of material that we provide, what that can be used for, and what it can we can achieve in terms of recovery cost for selling that material, which obviously offsets the overall costs of operating the contract.
So just a further question, Chair. And again, it's directed to Rangi because he knows about this stuff. If we put the glass in the recycling bin, it creates problems for recycling. If we put it in the general bin, it significantly increases the weight that goes out to things, so we have costs there. But I think I heard Rangi right some time ago suggest that one of the options that we might consider is only accepting glass in the recycling bin if it was in a plastic bag. So it's tied, so that means once it gets into the truck, if it breaks, it doesn't contaminate everything else, it just breaks in the bag. Just wonder whether that's something going forward, because this glass is a major problem for us, whichever way we look.
Look, I think a solution needs to be, Fiona, if we can put it on work to be done on an urgent list, because the Mayor raises a good point. There is a contractor out there who has a large factory who would actually take the glass and turn it into sand. But it's getting it to them and pointing it out, and you've got the contamination, you've got the increasing the tonnage to Amy Lime, which puts the price up. So, look, it's got to be, something has to be discussed and sorted, so it's better to...
So look, I think that's, so we're getting a little bit off the track of this paper, but note the discussion, and I think Erin's
thank you, Chair.
got something coming forward on that, so thank you for that. Ria and then Alan.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to see this initiative come through, and with the 3 strikes route too. But just a question. On the routes that the trucks are taking and the person that's checking the bins are taking, do they talk to each other so that they know what route they're on? Just the only reason why I'm asking this is the last recycle pickup down our street was the bins had been cleared, and then the person came half an hour and checked them, and they were empty.
So the inspectors are employed by the waste collection contractors, so they do have maps in that, so they know the routes and they can be in contact with the drivers. The contractor has actually told us that they're looking to install a new system in their trucks, which helps identify where the trucks are, and it will also have access to the inspectors, so potentially if they go with that,
So that will fix that problem.
It will improve it, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got Alan and then Alex, and that'll be it.
My quick question is, these services obviously all come at a cost, and with the fact that 1,731 bins were actually checked and 46 red tags issued, is that an improvement on past numbers? Do you know, or too soon to tell? Because I only started.
Yeah, it's probably too soon to tell. We'll have to start seeing what the contamination rates, the overall, if they start coming down.
The 46 red tags, I mean, I guess you go into that.
Can I also just clarify that the costs for the inspections is something that comes out of the waste levy, which is paid at the landfill, so it's not something that's coming through council rates.
Okay, last one, Alex.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out that with the 24-34 LTP, we went out for consultation. This council went out for consultation around the 3rd glass bin. And I recall it was a pretty unanimous decision not to go ahead with that. So I guess I'm just kind of wondering why that keeps getting raised when...
The glass?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we'll cover that. There's a paper going to come back on a wider thing, so yeah, thanks. My only question would be, once someone's got a red tag, do they get a follow-up in a sort of educational way to try and correct the behaviour? Yeah.
Yeah, so on each of the red tags, it's written on what it was tagged for, and a letter is left. If after 3 tags and the bin is removed, they need to sign a agreement which outlines what should be in there. So it is more around the education more than the punishment. Yeah.
Yeah, great, that's a good idea. And so what, in the case of a landlord, so where a tenant may be sort of wrongly using the bin, but ultimately it's the landlord that has the proprietary interest in the bin, isn't it?
Yes, so sorry, we leave a letter in the letterbox, and one also gets sent to the homeowner for that reason.
So that's how you cover that off.
Yeah.
Excellent, righto, thank you. Okay, so where are we? So we've got recommendations to receive and note the report, and then endorse the recommendation and proceed with implementation 3 strike system from 31st of March. Thank you, Rhea. Seconder. Thanks, Steve. Any final comment? Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, the next... Oh, we've got lots of questions after the paper's gone.
Yeah, no, on number 4 it says confirms if further updates on the program are required to be presented to the...
Yeah, so we would get updates on that.
Right.
Yep. Thank you. So the water services bill, so tab 11, this is for noting, I assume that...
What about
what?
number 10?
Oh,
You skip a paper.
How about
Yeah,
tab
tab
10?
10.
Oh, I have got, trying to get through it too quickly. Sorry. 10. Just checking they're all awake. The government private share recovery. Doug, you're presenting this. Do you want to take the tab 13 with the regional consultation plan together with this, or can they stay separate? You've made your later item around the regional transport plan. Do you want to
We can do those one after the other.
Yeah, I
so
can bring
that
it forward
Yeah,
to go
absolutely.
after this. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you,
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
So moving it to item 11.
Thank you very much. This paper is covering the required private share recovery policy that the government implemented December last year. What the government is looking for is an increased private contribution to funding public transport. Currently, council recovers around 9% on the investment for NZTA. The requirements that have been laid out over the next 3 years originally were 14, 17 and 21. Essentially, we would be doubling and tripling the fares as they stand now. An example would be in 3 years, my modelling showed we would need to charge $9.60 a ride. So obviously not feasible. So the past couple of months I've been going back and forth with NZTA to get to find the sweet spot, I guess. And they are sympathetic to smaller centres. The trouble is our costs are quite fixed, and the income we get varies with patronage. So patronage flattens out, our costs still continue to remain, and our ratios get worse. So what I've been presenting to NZTA was a range of options which are contained in this paper, showing the returns that they could get, and again they've been reasonably forthcoming with what their requirements are, and I've been the same back. We have settled on a set of fares that is acceptable at NZTA, which you would have seen in the fares and charges paper. Unfortunately, the order is round the wrong way, but that's the way it has to be. So from $2.20, we're looking at going to $4 for each ride, and that will have to increase over the next 2 or 3 years. At this stage, we may revisit it, depending on how NZTA think their returns are going. So we have to track this, obviously. What I can say is that there is a caveat to all of this, that our patronage has been growing within the public transport sector, and this will have, our modelling shows this will have a slightly negative effect. Yes, we will get more revenue, certainly, but we might have less people on the bus. And I suppose that, which I did raise with NZTA, is the type of patronage we get. We get a great deal of young people, and I guess you call them transport disadvantaged folk that don't have any other option. So this will impact them quite a lot. One of the things that's off the table is council topping up that funding to satisfy that. So private share genuinely means private share. I've covered some aspects where we might be able to get some commercial opportunities. They are thin. It was suggested to us that advertising would be a good thing. Our contracts at this stage don't cover revenue coming to us for advertising on buses, and I think that's probably fair enough, but we do have the opportunity to put them in shelters and other places. So we would need just to have to target that. So that's one of the recommendations. I think we should look for opportunity to top this up so we can ease the burden on the passenger. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Doug. So questions, comments? So I suppose I'll start it off then, Doug. So just looking on page 3 of your report, just around the different funding sources, ICC, NZTA and fares. So about a 30%, over 30% increase between 24, 25 and 26, 27 from ratepayers to the public transport is what we've programmed in.
That's an NLTP funded, yes.
So where we got ICC in that table,
yes.
So that's not directly ratepayer contributions to public transport. That's the 1.236 million. That is from ratepayers, isn't it?
That is from ratepayers.
So if you take the 980 that we're at this year, it's increasing by 30% the ask on ratepayers.
That's correct. That is matched funding, but yes, our contribution goes up in line with NZTA's contribution.
But ratepayers are stumping up with 30% more. Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts, Steve?
Thanks, Chair. I was just wondering, just from a bus stop advertising standpoint, any idea of the infrastructure costs that would need to be thought about before equipping those bus stops to enable advertising?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't offset the income we would get from advertising.
Yeah.
It's a fair point. Where we do have bus stops and bus shelters in place, that would be the first target we would use. We do have a program of infrastructural upgrades, so we are currently looking at new sites for bus shelters, and we could utilise that as well. But we are looking quite strongly at trying to get some different income streams into the preserves.
Awesome. And just a secondary question, and then would the idea be to put in infrastructure and then contract to a media company to coordinate advertising?
Through the chair, yes, we would want to go completely hands-off with this and contract it out.
Alan?
Yeah, just as I look at these, this bus thing, I think of history, and I go way, way, way back to when Invercargill City Council actually owned its own buses. And this is a long extreme thing, but back in those days when they did that, obviously private charter was something that actually propped up public passengers. The general fare-paying passengers who travel around the city, because there's the ability to actually gain revenue from the buses when they weren't being used around the city. Is there any possibility of actually looking back at an option like that? I mean, I know it's like going backwards and having sort of something owned by us as opposed to a private company, which is not the way things are going.
Through you, Chair, the current legislation allows Invercargill City Council to own a bus fleet.
It allows it to?
It allows it to own a bus fleet. There are other challenges with that. And as you said, it is a step backward. I know other councils have considered this. The setup costs alone are eye-watering, to be fair.
You'd be able to stagger it over time, of course.
You could do, but it's a bigger question.
It's just a thought, that's all.
It's a fair point.
Yeah. How to get revenue. It's very difficult.
That's true.
Yeah.
Ria?
I'm looking at page 4 of Boardworks. I'm looking under your title advertising and the revenue income that this could bring to us. And I'm looking at your pricing and your 4-week cycle of that advertisement being applied there. I'm just wondering, what sort of safety measures would there be put in place for ensuring that in locations of bus shelters that the advertising is appropriate? For you've got minors on a bus, you can't have a swimsuit, half-naked person advertising some. Well, Does it have, like, does it come underneath advertising standards as well, to make sure? Okay. So just
Through you,
double check.
Chair, yes, we would put our ICC requirements upon that, and they would have to stick to various legislative limits.
Okay.
Okay, so just, could you just talk a little bit through recommendation 2? So what you're sort of asking us to actually do there with the request to work around the required private share to meet intentions of government policy? Just, I know it's in the paper, but can you put it in sort of some English?
Well, recommendation number 2 there is confirming that we will work with NZTA to make sure that we do hit the required targets. Now that, again, between setting the fares at the last meeting and now, that has moved slightly, so it's quite an agile space. We've had that confirmed, and those prices are confirmed for us, so that recommendation doesn't necessarily apply here. We are going to ongoing work with NZTA to see if we can flatten that out.
Right.
So we will, again, revisit this at some point.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, cool. Mayor Clark?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, I guess, in some ways. You know, we're forced to push the rate of the bus trip up, and I guess there isn't always an appetite to subsidise that too heavily. But is there an option that we cut down the number of trips that we make on each route? So instead of doing 6 trips out to Waikiri a day, we do 3, given that our patronage will probably drop when we're at $9 as opposed to $4. Or the other issue is, do we do more trips to less advantaged areas where there's a little bit more deprivation and people that may not have other options to get to town?
Yeah. And that's a little bit to what the sort of regional transport policy in 13 is about, isn't it? So it's, yeah. So that'll should address those questions, really, shouldn't it?
Through you, Chair, one of the many matters that the RPTP covers is frequency and appropriateness, and I think that's an ongoing body of work for us to get just to get the mix right.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. Brea. Sorry, Barry.
Yeah.
Barry.
With your recommendation 3 with the purchase of advertising on the bus shelters, I've got a bus shelter around the corner from my place. It's practically been taken to bits by the vandals, and it worries me that we're going to waste money on advertising on a shelter that sort of people are going to just take it to bits on us.
Through you, Chair, I agree, it's a risk. Every shelter gets vandalised and graffitied and so on, depending on the area. Advertising is normally behind some fairly tough plexiglass, but we will have to keep that in mind when we're placing these. I don't think we need to rush to throw things up on the wall. I think we just need to make sure that we're careful and perhaps target advertising to the demographic that's local.
Right. Thank you.
That's a good idea, actually.
Okay, thanks, Doug. So look, what I'll do here is I'll seek a mover and a seconder for the recommendations to be received, and then I'm actually going to go through each of the 4 and get an individual vote on them, because there is a few decisions to make within those recommendations. So can I get a mover and seconder to receive the paper? Thanks, Barry. Seconded, Darren. Do I have to vote on it? All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay, against, carried. So that's 1 ticked off. So 2, request the staff work with NZTA to ensure. All those in favour of that recommendation, say aye. Aye. You're happy with that? Yeah, cool. Agree, disagree. So what's the best way to do that? Yeah. Do you want to put a motion as the mover and seconder around agree or disagree?
Yeah, I'd look at agree because it's pursuing and looking at where it's appropriate.
Okay, so thank you for that. All those in favour of that approach?
Aye.
Okay. Against? Carried. Going good, team. And last one, request staff implement option 2, which is consider all income streams available. So you're happy to that? All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, thanks Doug. We will jump through to the other one that you're up for, which is 13, tab 13, the Regional Public Transport Plan Adoption for Consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Regional Public Transport Plan is up for review. It's not a compulsory review, but it's middle of its term, and it gives us a moment to pause and reflect on how successful we've been, as well as maybe tweak a little thing, a few of the items to make sure that we're actually heading in the right direction, and so it keeps it current. The draft itself, you will have noticed the fares are wrong. They'll be changed before they go out to consultation because of the late changes. Essentially, there's not a great deal of change in it other than tweaking some things. So the priorities remain the same. So we still have those three major priorities within the plan. And I like the way they're written now because they're broader and it gives us more room to interpret. And I think that's important. It still meets our requirements and our criteria. So at the moment, we're really asking just to go out to consultation with the public and have those discussions. We have already had a stakeholder workshop, which was very successful. We had all various groups, certainly impacted groups, secondary schools, the disabled community particularly, and got a lot of really good feedback from them. So that has informed the new plan. And we do it in the face of a GPS that perhaps isn't as supportive as it once was. So we have to work fairly smartly to make sure that our citizens aren't adversely affected.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mayor Clark.
Yeah, just on the issue of equitable access, which is in the first part there. I mean, it's really interesting when you go into some of the larger cities. In some of the larger cities, they don't actually run a bus system to some parts of the city. They seem to be, for want of a better words, more affluent areas. And people, when they go to buy a house, are often, if they're disadvantaged or elderly, will consider where they buy on whether there's public transport or not. So instead of us trying to provide a bus service everywhere across the city with dwindling numbers because the tickets go up, we might also like to consider whether we delete some routes and just concentrate on others.
Yeah, thank you, Trish.
Along on that same line, if we did that, we would need to consider Bluff as well.
Oh, sure.
Doug, I've just got a couple of questions. With your stakeholder group, what providers in that? Were there any providers in that stakeholder group?
Yes, there was. Yeah, GoBus were in attendance, our local.
Okay, yeah, cool. And just with them picking up on the mayor's sort of direction, the consultation, so I think it's really important we engage, you know, in communities or in areas where there's probably a higher reliance on public transport as opposed to do a generic consultation. And so, yeah, I'd like to see quite a bespoke plan come out with the consultation so that we do touch and go to those areas that have a higher reliance and informs us around the decision we make. And, you know, to the mayor's point, I think, you know, there'll be areas of the town that actually don't have the need for a public transport system as much as others, and I think we want to really try and dig in to understand what the needs of those communities are.
Through you, Chair, I'm working heavily with the Communications Department at the moment to organise this consultation, so we'll be having a public workshop. I'll be standing in the mall on a Saturday, shaking hands and so on, so we're trying to get the message out as much as we can, but I absolutely agree that a targeted approach should be made, and I'm particularly thinking about South City. I think it's really important that we engage with that community quite heavily, and that is on our plan.
Yeah, and like a couple of definitely Bluff should be on it, but, you know, if you think about the schools, you know, we say schools are high users, so, you know, we've got a planned consultation to go to the schools and listen to see what they've got to say.
I agree.
So, yeah, I think we've got an opportunity to really engage strongly with the community. Ria?
Just on your commentary there, Chair, so there will also be a plan to target our elderly that rely on the transport and our vulnerable citizens, so will they also be just as equally engaged with inside that process?
Through you, Chair.
Although I know they're there at the meeting.
Through you, Chair, yes, they were engaged in our stakeholder meeting, our stakeholder workshop, and they'll continue to be engaged through this process.
Great.
Okay, cool. Right, so can I have, yeah?
Yeah, I'll move.
You want to move? Okay, seconded. Thanks, Trish. No final discussion. All those in favour of receiving the report and the adoption of the transport plan for consultation?
Aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thanks, Doug.
Sure.
Tab 11, local government water services bill submission. So this is just for noting paper. Erin and her team have done a really good job of sort of putting this together and reflected sort of the discussions we've had through the process. Is there anything you want to add to that, Erin or Michael?
I think the only piece that I'd add is there's quite a bit of content there that's just administrative in terms of tidying up between different bills. Really the key crux for us was that there is a significant amount of work that needs to go into preparing bylaws, plans, policies, strategies in compliance with the legislation over the next 2 years. We do have concerns around how much we will need to be consulting with the community in this space, and so we have made a suggestion that they look at amending that to a 3-year program. We are concerned about, consultation fatigue with the community and how often we do need to go out and consult with them, so we've requested some more time be considered in that space. And the other key piece is around that financial ring fencing requirements. At the moment, whilst there is some guidance that's already out and some more guidance to come, it's very difficult for us when we don't have the full picture at the moment, and that is just guidance, not legislation, to prepare our water service delivery plans to meet ring fencing requirements that we're not quite sure what those requirements are as yet. So we've also pushed back around wanting to see that come forward in a more certain version in the final legislation to give us the ability to make sure that we have the right resource and the right format in place with when we submit our water service delivery plans.
Cool. So got Alex, Trish and then Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's an excellent submission, so thank you to all the parties that have put their knowledge into it. I also personally still think it's absolutely nonsensical that we have to consult on a CCO that we have no agreement with our partners to deliver, so literally cannot deliver at the end of it even though we're consulting on it, not even once but twice. Real sensitive that that consultation fatigue and that deja vu will be there for the community if the select committee doesn't listen to our submission.
Trish?
I'd just also like to acknowledge the way this submission has been put together, particularly in the way it's very readable. It's quite clear what the key points that you're talking about, so thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Leslie?
Thanks, Mr Chair. I won't repeat what Alex has said, but I agree with all her points. Just want to compliment the staff on the detail in the submission and the careful pointing out of a whole host of really important issues. I'm happy to move that we receive the report.
Mike.
Thank you, through yourself, Chair. The only thing I'd highlight in relation to what got in the submission is just timings in relation to it. It's not something you can really put into your submission, but the timing in relation to the water bill being anticipated to go through the government process to go live in about August 2025, and then our plans are due in September 2025, does create a logistic challenge. Our industry bodies are very much onto that and working with government around that. I'm not sure what that will mean from a timing perspective, but highlight to council that does create a problem from complying with legislation at the time of submitting and time of approving plans. So this bill does indicate that when it goes live, if it goes according to the schedule, will create us some issues at the time. Just highlighting that could be a problem.
And I would just note, Chair, that we have also now have released those Tamata ROI standards as well that we're currently reviewing. Once again, there's a reasonably tight turnaround for us to review those, get to grips with them and provide a submission. It is something that we will want to submit on because particularly those wastewater discharge standards will have a key impact on those consents that we have coming up at Bluff and Clifton.
So when will we get those circulated tomorrow? What standards are they?
So we will most likely need to come back outside of the normal infrastructure and projects.
Okay.
We're just working around the team to pull that content together at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Cheers. Okay,
One more quick question for Erin. Is that depreciation question going to be included in that submission?
The submission around,
The wastewater standards?
not the depreciation question, no. So that really feeds back into that financial ring fencing piece around really wanting more information within the legislation around the financial ring fencing, as well as those financial requirements. At the moment, as I mentioned, we do have some early guidance out that is talking about things like depreciation, but again, they're only guidance.
yeah, so that'll come out in due course. Yeah. Okay, so I've got to move, I think Leslie moved, second, Barry, you look like you want to move. Thank you. Second, all those in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. This is our final item, 12, Lee. Strategic Capital Projects Report. Welcome. Do you want to sort of highlight any particular pieces, or do you just want to take it as read and take questions?
Yeah, I think I'll just quickly cover my cover sheet, I think. Just a number of the projects are coming to fruition now and coming to conclusion, including CCTV, the boat ramp, Branksome pipeline is in its sort of final throes, so I just want to acknowledge them. And obviously the progress made on the museum. There's a lot of structure now sitting up in the sky, and I think that's a testament to the team. Yeah, open to questions on the dashboard.
Okay, thank you. So I've got Mayor Clark and then Rangi.
Yeah, so Lee, the comments you've got on there.
Can you talk into that mic, please?
Sorry, the comments you've got on there in relation to the museum, where are we at with the Christchurch-based iwi provider that's giving you advice on the cultural component?
Yeah, so I just took a phone call just while this meeting's going underway. We're still sort of going back and forth, still on a few clauses. We're getting closer. I think we're down to sort of one now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's taken a lot longer, unfortunately, than we hoped for.
Because that, I think, a previous report you gave us said that unless we get on top of that, that contract, it could lead to some ongoing costs with the Gibson Group.
Yeah, I think the presentation that was done today would sort of highlight that there's some bits we can't quite get the nuts of,
okay.
And that has slowed them down, making them probably a little bit less efficient, and that does bring costs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just a reminder, we are in public. Rangi.
I would like to talk about the museum, but especially in the first bit, the ICC PMO program dashboard. Now, looking at that big red marker there, if you were reading the content about time and cost implications, if this was the dashboard of your car, you'd pull over to the side of the road and call roadside assistance. I mean, this is not good. I mean,
Point of order, Chair. This is an item that's actually being addressed by an extraordinary risk and assurance meeting.
Agree, Chair.
Yeah, so I'll caution you, Rangi, just
No,
around making sure you...
I'm actually reading what is written down in front of me.
Yep, so
I haven't introduced any other words.
Yes. Yep, so
Okay.
just tread carefully, please.
I always
I'm
tread.
not saying you aren't, but I'm just making sure you do.
Be like walking on rice paper. Look, I mean, it's this program dashboard is for us to raise concern, and
Yeah.
I'm raising concern.
Yeah, and I think your concern is this putting the project at risk in terms of time and cost?
Well, that's what it says here, time and cost implications.
Yeah, yeah. So you want well, I'm not
That's what
sure.
I'm asking.
Yeah, so the detail of that will come through audit and risk. So what is it you want to lead to?
Well, I thought this.
Are you just trying to highlight that, or are you actually
No,
wanting
I'm
an answer
actually
to
to
that?
ask some questions. I thought that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah,
the
so
content.
what particular question are you asking around?
Well, okay, we got time and cost implications. Of what severity, time, and then cost?
Yeah, so what's the impact of the delay?
Well, I guess they are measurable. Time is measurable, cost is measurable.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I mean, you shouldn't put these in here if you don't want to talk about them.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
Clara.
can I just note, Chair? I'll just note that Lee's role as Director of the PMO is to provide a dashboard and to provide alerts around whether or not we may have an issue or may not. It's not always his role then to address that particular issue, and I think that's where the point that we've noted around there is now a separate avenue for that. So Lee can talk to it at a high level, but the detail would be going now through that separate stream.
Yeah, so I'll cover the time one first, so that if you go to the risk part of the dashboard, the time one is red because we have alerted to the fact that this is taking longer for us and there is some delay in impacts for us. You know, Gibson are responsible for the experience piece, which will lead into the actual opening. So slowing down or impacting Gibson's timeline could impact the opening of the museum, and that's why it's red. So it could have a potential severe impact. Financials and other bits and pieces are in amber. We're just alerting you to the fact that we are seeing a few costs that are a bit more than we had planned to spend. They are within our contingency threshold. It is not red. We're not coming back asking for more money. So we are within our limits.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. All covered. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment on the overall program. We are just having a little bit of a think about what this might look like going forward. Those of you that were with council when the 2021 long-term plan was put into place would be aware that we had a number of quite chunky roadmap projects that we needed to deliver as a council. We're now finding that a number of those have been completed, and when we went through our internal steering group recently, we talked about the fact that as a number of these final ones start to become delivered, CCTV, the Branks Home project, etc., that we'll start to have less and less of these projects because we've really delivered the majority of that roadmap. Obviously the museum continues on, but we will look at potentially how we amend that reporting going forward because we may be down to the final one or two projects moving forward.
Yeah, okay. Just one question I had around in the description, Lee, around the Branks Home thing. You've noted a few other items that have been uncovered during the project. Can you give any colour to that?
Branks Home?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest one for the team has been weather. I mean, we have worked through an incredibly wet period.
Yeah.
That is, you know, we know we will have challenging ground conditions. We pothole the route and get some good data before we start sticking pipe in the ground or agreeing to a route. The weather has just exacerbated those issues. That's probably been the biggest one. A couple of small surprises, a couple of services that we weren't aware of, but other than that, that has been the major one for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's an important project. And
good weather, good weather and good ground, and you can see on Gala Street the guys are just cracking on.
Yeah, and I must make a comment on that. I'll go up there quite a bit, and the traffic management on that's been really good. I think we've noted with other perhaps road servicing or the water down here that South Roads are doing. You know, the traffic management's been very good. It's busy road and they flow pretty smoothly and it's very compliant. So
thanks, I'll pass it
hats off to our contractors for that. Okay, so I think we're ready to move that paper. We've got them. So we've got received the report and the PMO program dashboard and note the current status of the projects, including the risk assessment. So can I have a mover and a thanks, Leslie. Seconded, Trish. No final comment. All those in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Against, carried. There is one other thing. I think this is Lee's last PMO. So, Lee, look, this is a tribute to you. The list of things that are going to disappear off this list in the next wee while. And on behalf of the council, I'd just like to thank you for your time and effort and energy you've invested, in getting the PMO team to, get across these projects and get them delivered or running as close as possible to time and cost.
Thanks.
So thank you very much and all the best in the future.
Thank you, Lee.
I think we're finished, aren't we? Right. Okay, so so that's just a separate meeting? Okay, so yeah, we'll close the meeting now and then Patricia just wants to talk to us a little bit about some annual plan stuff. So if you've got 10 minutes.
It'll be less than 10 minutes.
Okay, are we off?